Hello everyone, my name is Samantha Muma, and I am part of this history of photography course. Today I will be presenting to you the biography information and summary of the work of Herbert Ritts American. Um, these first two images are some profound images that he took during his career, during his photographic career. And I was really struck out by Herbert Ritts because of his influential black and white photography. He focused mainly on black and white. And I think that the contrast that he created was really intriguing and really drew an audience in a beautiful way. But we will go into more detail about that in just a second. So on this first page, I included a pretty profound quote by Herbert Ritts, and he said, "You're trying to get to one moment with one frame that eventually may speak for your generation." Herbert Ritts, 1999. So we'll keep moving forward. So on this first page, I included some basic biography information. Herbert Ritts was born in 1952 in Los Angeles, California. Herbert Ritts' father was, Herbert Ritts is a junior, so his father's name is Herbert Ritzer, and he was a businessman, which was influential to Herbert. Shirley Ritts, which was Herbert Ritts' mother, was an interior designer, which I'm sure was influential for his interests and aspects in art and design and things that go along with that in photography. Herbert Ritts married Eric Hyman later in his life, and Herbert died in December 26, 2002, of complications of pneumonia, and struggled with a 15-year battle with HIV and AIDS. So we will keep on moving. In his earlier career, I found a little story about his first photo shoot was with a friend. His friend he met in college. His friend's name was Richard Greer. Prior to Wright's photography career, he photographed his friend from college to help his friend's acting career. He needed some images to be able to kind of sell his image. So he convinced his friend to be a part of this photo shoot because he was really interested in photography. And this shoot actually gained quite a bit of traction and coverage, which is what inspired him to continue in his photographic path. And man, is it incredible that he did, because he was so influential in our understanding of celebrity photographs within the 80s and 90s. A lot of the photographs that I'll be showing you today, personally, I know I recognized because of how influential his photography was on the fashion industry, on the advertisement industry, and those areas. So his career started in the 70s. He was a self-taught photographer, so this is not what he went to college for. He actually got a economics and art history major in college, and then switched into photography after that. So once he gained that attention from his photographs from that shoot with his friend, he started to take photography seriously as a career and began to produce his works in the 1970s. But he really started to gain traction with the celebrities in the 1980s, the early 1980s and the early 90s, and then from there just really kicked off, with an incredible career. So in 1981, Ritts photographed Olivia Newton-John for the cover of Elle, a magazine. And so here you can see on the left is that photograph of Olivia Newton-John, captured by Herbert Ritts in 1981. It was for her album cover, Physical, and they used it on that magazine cover. And the photo on the right is of Richard Gere, that kicked off his career in the mid 1970s. So very exciting pieces of work to see and understand on how it influenced his early careers. Next, we'll be going into the incredible influence that Herb had on the celebrity image. To start going down the list, I mean, he was very influential in capturing the imagery of musicians, Hollywood stars, and many more, including presidents, international presidents, famous writers, and such. So for music, he photographed Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Diana Ross, Belinda Charlesy, Cher, Elton John, David Bowie. Hollywood stars that he photographed was Elizabeth Taylor, Brad Pitt, Nicole Kidman, Mel Gibson, Sidney Crawford, and Tom Cruise, and many, many more. A president that he photographed was Ronald Reagan. He also photographed Clinton. He photographed Stephen Hawking. Just a short list of many of the very famous people he had the privilege, and they had the privilege of getting photographed by. So for this, the Ritts photo collection, this slide basically describes how Ritts dominated the celebrity photography world throughout the 1980s and 90s, like I had mentioned before. And this is just reiterating it and re-emphasizing it because he captured some of the most iconic imagery, and it's still being used today for major magazine publications, even after his passing. Time magazine recently used a photograph taken by Ritts of Michael Jackson for one of their covers. So it just goes to show you how influential his photographs really are, because they're still, influencing to this day. So this is describing how he got into magazine covers. So he was very influential in photographing for magazines. And here is just a list of some of the magazines that he photographed for. And the list is mainly just to show you how wanted his work was because of how incredibly dynamic it is. On the right, you can see one of his pieces that it just shows sensuality, a very dynamic, look and composition. So some of the magazine covers he designed for and captured for was Glamour, Times, Rolling Stones, Vanity Fair, Vogue, Glamour and Details, and many more. He also was very influential in the advertisement industry. So, moving from magazine, he also was very influential in taking photographs for major fashion industries such as Ralph Lauren, Gap, Calvin Klein, which you can see on the right. These are two very famous actors and models, Mark Wahlberg and Kate Moss, and they're photographed in an iconic way. I mean, the dynamic nature of the image, created a sensual desire for these fashion industries. And yeah, we can still see this influencing the fashion industry to this day. So once he kind of dominated the photography industry for especially advertisement, magazine, portrait, supermodeling, those kinds of areas, he moved on to directing. And a few very famous music videos that he directed for was Madonna's Cherish video, Michael Jackson's In the Closet video, and Mariah Carey's My All. But he also directed for Bon Jovi, Toni Braxton, and many others. Here are some imagery, and it just kind of shows how he continuously kept achieving He didn't stop at a certain level. He kept growing and moving forward, which is really inspirational. So this shows one of his exhibitions. It's a collection of images from his trip to Africa. These are images depicting his travels and his experiences within the culture. A lot of these exhibitions have continued to happen after his passing. So all over the country, all over the world, his work is still shown very frequently. So these are some of his famous images from his collection, Africa. I also wanted to touch on, I read a lot about his depiction and concept of nudity, and I think that it was very interesting. I read that Herb's nude photography was something almost sculpture-like rather than pornographic, which is very unique, and I would say hard to do. So on the right, we can see some of the works of art that he captured, and the way that he captured the human body was very art-like, like a work of art that he wanted to be observed for beauty and elegance rather than purely sex like. So these images kind of show the ways that he captured the human curve and in both male and female. And he was very well known for creating a comfortable atmosphere for his models and actors to work in, which is, I mean, unique and incredible. So this kind of goes along with that and kind of shows the ways that he influenced the market. I think that with how much photographs were inserted into the advertising and fashion industries within the 80s and 90s, I really believe that all of the works he captured and created influenced the way that we perceive the role of a supermodel in our current society. His photography framed the way that we look at the advertisement and fashion industry today. So lastly, Herbert Ritts passed away in 2002 and communicated his desire to support organizations providing care, assistance, awareness, prevention, and research towards HIV and AIDS. So the Herb's Rich Foundation was created as a non-for-profit that works towards funding that goal and that desire that he had before he passed. The foundation also supports creating and funding programs that advance the art of photography. So the foundation works on keeping his collective items of photographs and keeping his exhibitions running all over the world to continue to show his work off, and to provide an education on how influential his work was. I just want to lastly say that researching Herbert Ritts was very influential on how I understand the idea of the human body being photographed and portraits being photographed, and also how influential one person can be to our understanding of advertisement in general, which I think we think it's such a, and I do think it is a diverse collective group of people, but with, stylistic decisions and intentional choices, I think that Herb Ritts really created an environment within the 80s and 90s within the market of advertisement and celebrity, portraits, that changed how we see celebrities today. And I mean, his photos are still circulating, in social media, on the internet, because of how dynamic he captured these iconic men and women that we know of in society. So it was a pleasure to research him and to get to understand where he came from and where his mind was at and all the influence he had on our market that we know of today. So this is my information sources. So all of these are areas where I got the information, and then moving on, these are my image sources. So these and that. A lot of them I got from his personal site, where it includes his biography, his timeline, all of his exhibition pieces. That's where I got a lot of his information and sources and images. And I would encourage anyone who wants to know more information about him as a photographer, as a person, as an influential member of photography society and the photographic evolution of how we understand, the intense and powerful ability that black and white photography has. So I learned a lot, and I am excited to learn more as I have the chance. So thank you so much.